Hello, this is my Module 6 reading journal, and I'll start with question 1. It says, the story behind seafood in this country is almost entirely hidden. How is the supply chain hidden, and what is it hiding? And long story short is going to be the suffering of humans and the suffering of the animals in the process. So for the suffering of the animals, I'll read 184, page 184. The script says, if you subscribe to the agony of fish, now is certainly the time. As fatigued fish crowd backward, sideward, and lack of volume turns into pressure, compacting the fish. So much so that by the end of the trawl, the first fish captured are nothing more than mash, measured in inches and torn pieces, not saleable as species. Their smeared bodies coating the net, flesh pulverized by the relentless pull of the trawl and the succession of maws above. And now for the suffering of humans, we focused in this book in particular on the human trafficking for fishery slave labor. And I'll start with page 185. It says, fishers like Tun Lin never see these small, unsaleable fish make it to port. They are passed to a sister boat on a rendezvous, traded along with food, cigarettes, Thai baht, and fuel. This is called transshipment at sea. It saves fuel for the larger refrigerated shipping vessels, and it allows some boats to stay out almost indefinitely. Resupplied by others, they turn into floating prisons or for trafficked workers. Now on page 188, we hear more where it says, rule number 1, when hiring people is do not hire locals. They will want to go home. They have families. They want someone who will live there 24 hours a day. If they come from a place at least 12 hours away, the chance of them going home goes far down. Now page 203. It says, but Tun Lin knows things are wrong. Whenever he asks Tulek questions, the boy will only laugh or cry. Soon after, Tulek refuses to work. It is now that he is beaten until he's unconscious and kicked into the sea. Page 204. Instead of rescue boats, NGOs, and the media helicoptering in, the captain pays a bribe to preserve his catch and make the environment violations go away. And as an aside, one of the authorities tells him about his snitch being one of his slave workers that said, hey, I'm being trafficked, all of us are, please help us. And that is not very well known, even though it got a huge boost in media at a certain point. Many people don't know, including me, about the amount of slave labor in a lot of our food products. I mean, I knew about like coffee and chocolate, but I was not aware about shrimp. Now, question 2 was, in many ways, the hoard is so vast that it risks overwhelming anyone who learns about it. How does this section highlight the importance of systems thinking? And what do you think are the best ways to affect this system? Starting with something from page 117, we get, when the industry picks up and withdraws their money and purchasing power, the problems simply get shifted elsewhere. As industry moves, so do problems. And another part right there is global narrative around this is displacement. So essentially just saying that the problems get displaced. It doesn't get solved when we do things like shift our buying power entirely. So before I answer both of the questions, I'm going to page 118. It says, in trafficking, the media focuses on why and where poor people get into difficult situations, but maybe we should be looking at why they are poor to begin with. To answer the first question that asks, how does this section highlight the importance of systems thinking, we can realize that in seeing how the system is kind of upheld and doesn't get dislodged by simply removing our buying power, we have to create a new system. So, and how does this highlight the importance of systems thinking? We're not going to solve the whole system by working within the system. We have to create a new system of supplying needs. And page 218 also kind of addresses both systems thinking and what do you think are the best ways to affect the system. It says that, quote, maybe we should look at why they are poor to begin with. And that is essentially a huge ask of, like, how does our system work? We have huge empirical systems, like we kind of have huge divide and conquer. We have colonizing systems, things where the rich say, oh, I'll give you blank to those who are in need, and they buy it up and snap it up. Well, we hold so many things hostage in terms of their needs, and like, instead of giving them a new system, we give the promise of, oh, I'll give you something as long as you continue to work for me. And so within the system of exploitation continues. If we somehow are able to create a new system where exploitation is not the only option, or a viable option is to work outside those systems, it will be snatched up. But we have to create that, and there are organizations that help create a community's resilience, a community's self stability. I forgot the actual term I'm thinking of, but like, where they're able to support their own needs, where they're able to produce their own food, shelter, etc., where they're able to sustain themselves. But yes, that in essence is my thoughts. I know I went over the time limit, but there are a lot of things to cover and a lot of things to talk about. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.